shop a reverse for muscle gains, but maintaining a comfortable physique. So I think what she's referring to is when to stop pushing food for the sake of gaining muscle, but still wanting to keep a comfortable look that you are confident in.
Sure. Well, again, like if you've made it this far, hopefully you saw that first question. To some extent, this needs to be based off of what your ability is to intake food. And then from there, anabolics can play a role in terms of how much muscle you're gaining, the rate of which you're gaining muscle. More so, I would say that if you're staying lean and you're not piling on tons of muscle, within those two variables, I would try to increase the food as much as you can. If you're adding anabolics, if you're staying lean and you're adding anabolics, then you might need to be more mindful of the food for that division. If we're talking specifically about bikini and your passion is really in bikini, then you need to be really aware of how much muscle you're putting on in the off season. So at some point you might need to restrict food.
Yeah.
But again, within restricting food, don't restrict it to the point where it's going to make it harder for you to diet when the time comes to diet. So just finding that baseline. And then obviously another great, if we're kind of not talking so much about muscle, but just more so about dieting and insulin sensitivity, if you get to a point where you kind of max out your diet and you feel like, instead of gaining fat, you're starting to shift to more, instead of getting muscle, you're starting to shift to more fat gain. Just reset yourself, pull things back down for about 6 weeks, have an assertive diet for 6 weeks, get your insulin sensitivity back, and then try to push the food up again in a leaner state. It does no good to continue to push food up over and over and over if all you're doing is accumulating fat. But within that, reset things and then stabilize yourself and then start to slowly increase again. And you're going to be really successful doing that.
Yeah, I agree with that too. And I think in that reset, when you do pull things back, that's a good time to evaluate what you have done so far in an off season and how progressive you've been. And pulling back that curtain is going to kind of let you gauge what progress you have made, what progress you have yet to make. I think that I agree with everything that you had said. But as far as being confident in who you are off of the stage in your off season, that doesn't come from just an aesthetic perspective, I believe. I did post a video on this topic, but more so being accountable and holding yourself to your word and your own actions and following through with what you say are going to do. Confidence comes from that and not just what you look like in the mirror. And if you know that you're taking the steps to make progress, then that alone should make you feel good about yourself. And if you know you're on track and doing the right thing, you'll feel there's nothing bad to feel about that. No bad way to feel about doing what you need to do to be the best at what you love to